I am here with James Swanwick. James, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, John.
So, what led you to help people with their drinking?
I was a socially acceptable drinker right up until 2010. I would have 2 or 3 drinks most nights of the week, and on the weekends I'd drink heavier. I wasn't getting arrested or waking up in a ditch, but I recognized that my drinking habits were definitely slowing me down in many areas of my life, including my health, my sleep, my professional career. I was procrastinating all the time. I wasn't sleeping well. I was irritable. I was frustrated. And so I decided to take a 30-day break in 2010, and it's turned into 13 years alcohol-free. In that time, I've got the body that I wanted. I've created some businesses. I've pursued hobbies, crossed things off my bucket list, feel very energetic, and now I support mostly professionals to have a better relationship with alcohol.
And that relationship with alcohol, there's this blurry line between I just have drinks now and again, and then you start to be more social, and then it starts to be every evening, and then the amount starts to creep up. How do we know when we've crossed over to the other side of that line where we might want to think about changing our relationship?
Most people will say it's when they have a rock bottom, but it doesn't have to be a rock bottom. It can be this death by 100 cuts. It can be you sleep in just a little bit longer, and so you get a little bit less done that day. And over time, that could mean you're just perpetually stuck. It can mean that you put on 20 pounds, 25 pounds, and so you lose your self-confidence. It can mean that you say the wrong thing because you're irritable and frustrated, and that leads to a romantic relationship breakdown. It can lead to you not being as present with your kids. It can lead to you not getting the money that you know that you're worth in your career, in your profession, because you're just operating at a 6 out of 10. You're not rock bottom, but you're just blah, just kind of average, mediocre. That can get you to a point where you're like, oh man, I think I better stop what I'm doing here. But if you're tired, lethargic, irritable, foggy, and you're procrastinating and you don't have 9 out of 10 relationships, that should be a sign that this thing that in my view is just attractively packaged poison should really probably have a different part or a different role in your life.
Now, when you say attractively packaged, I think that's a perfectly way to describe it, or perfect way, because when you walk into a hotel, the most attractive place in the hotel is the bar. It's beautiful, it's wood, it's beautifully lit, everyone's well-dressed, ready to serve you. In terms of being social, it's almost like a grease, if you will, to getting to know people, for them to welcome you. And sometimes the idea of not drinking can be rather unattractive. And I read a story that you told about interviewing Bradley Cooper when The Hangover was coming out. And you tried to break the ice with the drinking question, and he hit you with an answer that surprised you. And your reaction at the time was something that I think when we're in alcohol, we're afraid people will have the same reaction. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, I used to live in Hollywood, California, and I would do movie junkets. I would interview movie stars and directors about their upcoming film, and those interviews would play on television programs around the world or in newspapers and magazines. And I interviewed him for the movie The Hangover at the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills, and I asked him, hey, what's your favorite drink? What's your favorite drink to go out on the town and have a good time? And he said, oh, I don't drink. And I said, what? He said, no, I don't drink. I gave it up some years ago. And I was just incredulous. I was like, what? And in my mind, the story was, this is not someone I want to hang out with. Because at the time I was drinking, and I always related drinking to creating a bond and a connection and having fun. And I thought, this guy's got to be dull and very uninteresting and just like a bit of a killjoy. Man, how wrong I was. Bradley Cooper seems to have done all right in life. I think he's been nominated for 8 Academy Awards. I don't think he's won one yet, but he's been nominated 8 times, I think. He's highly regarded. Men want to be him. Women want to be with him. And he hasn't drunk alcohol in 15 years. I mean, the guy's doing pretty well. And what he shared with me is that his career was pretty much stuck when he was drinking. It was holding him back. He did okay, but the breakthrough really came when he was clear and focused and not irritable and not distracted. That's when he had a huge professional breakthrough. So yeah, I get it. You know, the first thing that you think when someone says they're not drinking is, oh, they must have a problem. Or, oh, this woman's dull. Have nothing in common with this person. But the reality is that you can have a life filled with adventure. You can be interesting. You can have conversation of depth. And you can have fun, amazing times while drinking soda water, ice, and a piece of lime or whatever else your alcohol-free drink is. You do not need to drink this attractively packaged poison in order to create romance or connection or fun or network. It's ridiculous.
Or entertain. I mean, that's the thing as musicians, is when we're gigging, there's alcohol almost always present. And there are certain gigs where I remember my club days, and the band was judged by the club owner by what the bar receipts were at the end of the night. So you could be a lesser band. You could not sing as well or play as well. But if you sold more booze, you got invited back over the other bands. How do you suggest people who are in those environments not be a killjoy, but maintain their integrity and not drink?
When you walk into any bar or restaurant or any social situation where there's alcohol, you just commit to having the most fun and being the most present and being the most engaged person while drinking soda water and cranberry or soda water, ice, and a piece of lime or whatever alcohol-free beer they may be serving, and you just commit. And what you do is you create a very fun, open, light-hearted manner about you. See, here's the thing. People don't care that you're not drinking. They just care if you're not having fun, because then you're depriving them of their fun. So if you go into a bar or an event or a gig and there's alcohol present and you walk in and you go, oh, yeah, gee, I wish I could drink, but I can't. I'm doing this 50 days of not drinking thing. Oh, yeah, you guys have the fun. I'll just sit here and watch the band and, I don't want to be around you either. Who would want to be around that person? Talk about a killjoy. And what you're doing is you're telling yourself that drinking equals fun and not drinking equals pain. And you're telling your social circle that drinking equals fun and not drinking equals pain. So your body language, your mannerisms, what you're saying is just reinforcing this ridiculous notion that alcohol is something that we should bow down towards and that is this necessary social lubricant. I call BS on that. Alternatively, if you walk in there and you go, hey, everyone, how you doing? Great. Oh, this band's going to be amazing. And someone says, hey, let me get you a drink from the bar. You go, yeah, get me a soda water. And they go, what do you mean? You're not drinking? I go, no, I'm not drinking. I haven't drunk in like 6 weeks. Been feeling pretty good. But I'll get drunk on some soda water. Grab me a soda water. That'd be amazing. And you're just lighthearted and fun about it. Then your social circle can't make you feel like you need to drink alcohol to fit in, because your body language has already shown them that you are supremely confident and fun being alcohol-free. They've done this amazing study on body language, and what they figured out was all persuasion and influence is only 7% what you say. It's 93% how you say it. So it doesn't even matter what you say when people are asking you, why don't you drink? What matters more is how you tell them that you're not drinking. And if you're fun and open and lighthearted and you're making a joke at your own expense, and man, then you can just relax being alcohol-free and everyone else can enjoy your company and have a great time.
Right. You don't need to make them feel guilty. It's like the joke, how do you know if someone's a vegan? Don't worry, they'll tell you. And there's always this sense of like if someone goes to tuck into a hamburger, there's the person with their salad, and and you don't want to make people feel guilty or that you're suffering, but you've made a great case for not drinking. But I know back when I drank, I could tell myself all these things, and I could wake up feeling lethargic and not at my best, and go, okay, I'm not going to drink tonight. But man, when the sun starts setting, that martini shaker in the freezer started calling out to me. What is it about alcohol that is so insidious, where it creeps up on you, where it just becomes harder and harder to say no? And it's almost not even like a fight. It's just like you almost just give in.
Couple of things. Cultural conditioning is very real. Now think about it. How young are you, John?
Oh, I'm 60 years old.
Okay, great. 60. So you, I'm assuming, would have seen either one of your parents or adults in your life at a very young age drinking alcohol when you were a young boy.
Both my parents were from Glasgow, Scotland, so do the math.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And they gave me sips of beer when I was a child.
Exactly. And you know what your parents were doing? They were leading you down a path of normalizing this poison. It was like a rite of passage. It's like, one day, little John, don't worry, you'll be able to drink alcohol like the adults. Here, let me just give you a little sip. There you go. Have just a little sip. But as you get older, don't worry, you'll be able to enjoy this attractively packaged poison later on. So your parents, probably unknowingly, were just enforcing this idea in your susceptible young mind that drinking alcohol is just something that you do. It's something what adults do. So by the time you got into your mid-teens, late teens, you're like, bring it on. Give me that alcohol. And then, of course, the cultural conditioning continues, because there are millions of other people around the world who also saw mummy and daddy drinking, who also live in a world where it's normalized, where they see beer ads that are fun and jokey, and they see wine ads creating romance, and they see television shows where people are celebrating and they're getting drunk, or they're lamenting and they're stressed and they're anxious and they're drinking, and they see billboards advertising and see George Clooney and Randy Gerber and these looking really cool on motorcycles promoting their tequila, and they see Ryan Reynolds, this godlike Hollywood actor who's got a whiskey brand who sells it for $1 billion, and he's fun and he's cool. And then you got The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, who's got his own tequila line, and he's doing little shots. And this whole idea is that this is just this beautiful, normal, sexy, cool, bonding thing that we just do. And yet it causes more illness and cancer and medical conditions than the next drug. All this media about the opioid crisis. Do you know how much of a crisis the alcohol crisis is compared to opioids? 10 times more significant. Yet, as a society, we go, oh, well, it's just drink, just alcohol. It's not really a drug. I love it when people say it's drugs and alcohol. It's not drugs and alcohol. Alcohol is a drug. It's the drug of alcohol. So to answer your question, John, that's it. Cultural conditioning has got you there. And then because you've been doing it so much over so many years, and in your case, decades, you've created this habit that when the sun goes down, it's time for a drink. It's like Pavlovian dogs. They ring the bell and the dogs come out and they start salivating. It's like, feed me, feed me. Same thing. The day starts to unwind. You're feeling a little tired. This is the time where I relax with a drink. The irony of the whole thing is that you're drinking to relieve you of the very thing that drinking has created.
Absolutely. And when I stopped, was it just about 6 years ago now, it took a certain number of weeks for that urge to leave. I mean, those first days are not the most enjoyable.
In some cases, it can be very unpleasant. In many cases, it can just be an inconvenience. If you can get through those first 7 to 10 days, what I have found anecdotally from all of the people that we've helped through my various processes and programs is that your sleep will start to improve. You'll start to feel less irritable. You'll start to feel more focused, more strategic, healthier. But it does take, it can take 7 to 10 days. In some people who've been drinking very heavily, it can be very uncomfortable in the first 3 days. Some people, they just got it. They stop and everything's fine. But if you can get through a week and a half, it may feel like you're running through rose bushes, getting cut up by the thorns in those first 7 to 10 days. But on the other side, it's beautiful.
And so what you do, you help people break their relationship with alcohol. And you show that you don't have to be an alcoholic for this to affect your life in a negative way. What is it that you do that is different from traditional programs? Because I know you have an incredibly high success rate. In fact, there's currently studies going on about what you do. It's so successful. If you could just, whatever you're okay with telling us.
Sure. Well, look, here's the traditional way of stopping drinking for people who are really drinking a lot is to go to AA. And AA has about a 7% reported success rate, which means it has a 93% reported failure rate when you judge success by at least a year being alcohol-free, okay, and creating long-term power over drinking. Now, people say AA's helped millions of people. It has. But it hasn't helped tens of millions of people who've attempted it. And so they're the facts. It's not my opinion. They're just the facts. My opinion on why it's so ineffective is because you have to acknowledge that you're an alcoholic, and chances are you're not an alcoholic. You're just someone who drinks too much right now. You have to surrender to a higher power and concede that you are powerless over this drug. And I call BS on that. You're not powerless over this drug. You're powerful. AA also is lamenting the past, spending a lot of time in like, oh, I did this wrong and my life's awful and it's really, really tough. And who wants that? I don't want that. And most of the clients who go through my process, they don't want that. They've tried that, hated it, didn't work, didn't enjoy it. The reason we have a reported 92% success rate, which is currently being studied and verified by the University of Washington and the University of Florida, who are conducting a joint scientific study on our process. The reason we have such a high success rate is because it is empowering, because it's fun, because we are having you focus on what you will do in the future as opposed to what you will not do. Instead of being sober, which implies that you have to stop drinking, we're inviting you to be alcohol-free, which is having you choose a direction that you want. They've done studies of the human brain, and the results of those studies show that when you tell your mind and your body to do something, it has a far easier job of accomplishing that thing than if you tell your brain and your body not to do something. So if you're skiing down a slope and you see trees and you're thinking, don't go into the trees, don't go into the trees, often what invariably happens is that you'll start to go into the trees. And you're like, why? Why did I do that? I was trying to avoid that. It's because you were thinking about the trees. So when you're trying to stop drinking alcohol and you're saying, I can't drink, I shouldn't drink, I need to stop, oh my God, I've got to go to AA, I've got to be sober. You're thinking about alcohol all the time and you're trying to tell yourself what not to do. Whereas in our process, which has a 92% success rate, we're saying just walk up to the bar and say, let me have a soda water ice and a piece of lime. Just tell us what you will do. Tell yourself what you will do. Okay, I will easily only drink soda water and cranberry juice tonight. Okay, when I walk into the bar, I'm going to walk up to the bar and I'm going to say, barman, let me have a soda water ice and a piece of lime. And so in our process, we just have people focus on what they will do and move in that direction rather than lament the past. My life's terrible. Everything's awful. Oh, I can't drink. I shouldn't drink. Oh, I can't drink tonight. Because that way is ineffective and this other way is effective.
James, how can people find out more about you and what you do?
The website is alcoholfreelifestyle.com. We have a podcast which is called Alcohol Free Lifestyle, which you can find in Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And you can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at James Swanwick.
Fantastic, James. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.